The NBA draft is a little under a month away, and each team is going to be looking to find the best player to not only fit their team, maybe even change the direction of their roster. And today we're going to be talking about the Atlanta Hawks with only one draft pick in this draft. Who are they going to be looking to draft? We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm one of the hosts here, Haize. Make sure you guys are following the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content. So we're starting our draft coverage here, and we do it a little bit different. So I know a lot of other channels do their own specific draft coverage. The way that I like to go about it is I'm going to go in the draft order, right? So I'll be starting up at the number one pick with the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the Hawks only have the number one pick in this draft, but for example, if a team has multiple picks, then I'll go pick by pick for that team, but we're going to go in the order of the first round. If that team has any other picks, we'll go ahead and cover those and kind of people that make sense at that draft selection for those teams as well. I just wanted everybody to know it's been a year since we've been doing our draft coverage, and since we do it kind of differently than what a lot of other channels do it, I want everybody to kind of understand the way that we go about our draft coverage here. And I'm open to suggestions. If you guys feel like there's a different way that you like to consume the information or anything like that, don't hesitate to leave that comment in the comment section. But we're covering the Atlanta Hawks today. And this is going to be one of these shorter draft videos because they only have the one pick, the number one overall pick. They had an opportunity to get this Sacramento Kings pick, but that pick was top 14 protected. So it ended up not conveying to the Atlanta Hawks in this draft. So because of that, they got lucky. They got the number one overall pick. That's the important part of it. And it really comes down to two players. Now, the way I also like to do my draft coverage, I like to look at kind of what a lot of the mocks have. So I look at a couple of different mocks. I look at The Ringer, USA Today, ESPN, CBS Sports, Bleacher Report. Kind of look at all those and kind of see, all right, where do some of these other outlets have, who do they have them picking, and then also kind of use some of my own, especially for the middle round picks, and things like that. I use some of my own outside the box kind of thinking inside of that. But when it comes down to the Atlanta Hawks, it really comes down to two different players, right? Alexandre Sarr and then Zaccharie Risacher. And that's what it comes down to. Those two players are the most likely candidates here. And we're going to start off with Alexandre Sarr, who I do think and agree is probably the most likely pick here for the Atlanta Hawks. And it comes down to he comes in at a position of need for them at center, right? He can definitely be their center of the future. We already know that they were shopping Clint Capella at the trade deadline, so this may free them up. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Atlanta Hawks walk away from this draft with more picks than what they're going into it with. I will not be surprised if they make a number of draft day trades. It seems like, per some of the outlets, that Alexandre Sarr has become now kind of the de facto pick for them. That's what they're feeling, is that he's kind of moved into that pole position for that number one pick. The bigger question kind of comes after, what do the Hawks do after they select number one overall, which we'll talk about here to end the show. But Alexandre Sarr brings somebody who, shot blocking, can guard multiple positions. His on-ball defense is well ahead of where he is right now, only 19 years old. He hustle. He brings all of that. This guy is a finisher who, depending on how you make your team up, right? But he's somebody who can run. If you have and build this team that likes to get out in transition naturally, especially using his shot blocking, his rebound, his hustle, things like that. He also cuts to the basket really well. You're going to see that on top of it. And if you have a defender that at all loses him in the pick and rolls or anything like that, he's going to go to the basket real quick. He's able to post up some as well. That is something he's going to have to kind of work on his game as well. And he also has the handles of a wing when you look at it. Catching, shooting, the three-point shot, he can do that as well, which is kind of the more modern style that people are looking for their bigs. And on top of his passing, he is somebody that you can look at as being someone who maybe can operate your offense from the inside out. Now, I don't know if you're going to want to do that a whole hell of a lot to start off his NBA career. That depends, right? Or depending on the team makeup, how much you're going to want to do that. But listen, this guy's going to be able to do pick and rolls, things like that. He's going to be solid passer in the half court on top of all that, and he's extremely mobile. His mobility at his size is crazy. 6'11", basically 7 feet tall, with a 7'4" wingspan is what he measured in the draft combine. And the thing is, this guy's just so athletic, so mobile, that he could bring something that we just don't see. We're starting to see more and more of it at the center position, but he just brings that hustle, the effort, everything. He is a guy that if you select over one in a draft that is looked at as a weaker draft with superstar talent, will not be surprised if Alexander Sarr still ends up turning into a superstar with that. He shoots a lot of jumpers. He doesn't always hit it at the best percentage, which is something you're going to look for as well. So you got to take a look at that. He shoots 29.5% from three at times. So you got to look at that as well, at what he can do. And 61% from the free throw line. He has to tighten that aspect of his game up. But other than that, this guy, not to make him seem like the perfect prospect, but he is an extremely well-rounded prospect as well. He is right-hand dominant, so however you take that with, we've seen players be right-hand dominant and still have great NBA careers. But, that's some things that you may want to look at for as well. And he usually leaps off his left foot, but it's not something to, again, this is nitpicking at that point. His decision-making at times can use some work, especially at, if he's kind of in pressure situations. And he has some travels as well. Sometimes when you close out on him, he needs to clean up that footwork. But outside of that, this is a guy who brings such high level, high potential, and an ability to contribute right now. It makes sense that most outlets have him going number 1 overall to the Atlanta Hawks. It just makes sense that they have that. So that's the pick right now. The Ringer has him coming in at number 1. USA Today has him coming in at number 1 as well. ESPN, CBS Sports all have him coming in at number 1. The only outlet as of right now that has a different player coming in at the number 1 overall pick is the next player we're going to talk about, and that's Zaccharie Risacher, is I believe how you pronounce his name. This is a guy who still at that wing position, I can understand why some people could look at him and say, he may be the best prospect in this draft. I don't necessarily agree with that. 19 years old as well, 6'8", with a 6'7" wingspan, however you take that. He's drawn comps from some experts like Michael Porter Jr., things like that. Catch and shoot, right away he's going to be able to catch and shoot. He can play multiple positions for you. He also moves without the ball really well, and that's something to me that if you already have that ability to move without the ball and you do it consistently, that is going to help you, get shots off at a better rate early in your career. He can be a knockdown shooter as well. That's what he's really developing into. Over 47% from three-point range last season. So you got to look at that as part of him going to development. Now in 2022 and 23, he shot 34.3% from threes. Look at that as far as some people kind of look at the last year. If it's just a huge amount of growth, does that cast some doubt for you? But overall, listen, he brings that shooting skill set as well. Good ball handler for his size. On top of all those things, he can bring the ball up the floor. I don't know if you want to use him as a point forward or anything like that, but if he does get a defensive rebound, he can bring up the ball and kind of initiate some of that half-court defense offense for you. He also is a solid slasher. He attacks when people close out on him. That's something that you want to see as well. And he doesn't really generate his own offense at a very high level yet. You can take that for what you will, right? Solid decision maker when he becomes the passer. He needs to develop that handle a little bit more, but it's not necessarily this huge negative thing for him right now. But you can definitely see that that's something that you want to develop with him as well, too. So that's what you got to look at. He has some struggles scoring in the half court at the rim. He made 37.9% of his attempts at the rim in 2022 and 23. So far, he made 51%. Well, so far the season's over. Last season, so he's shown that he's developing on those things as well. He doesn't get great lift. Like, he's not this world class, amazing athlete that's just going to jump out the gym at you. But overall, his shooting numbers. There's some doubt around how legit that's going to be, especially right away at the NBA level with the athleticism and closeouts he's going to be facing. But at the end of the day, the 72.6% from free throws, that's a little concerning there as well. But outside of that, I like this guy. I like him a lot for the Atlanta Hawks if they do decide to go that route. But to me, Risacher would be more of a pick if you're trying to keep a lot of what you have going on. And that's what brings this draft analysis kind of, as we're going to end this, it depends on on where the Hawks are going, right? We kind of, have heard things. I have videos on this channel about the Hawks looking to possibly trade Trae Young, which kind of makes some sense to kind of break up him and DeJounte Murray. Maybe with Alexandre Sarr, if he is the pick, with him being able to be mobile, be a lob threat, things like that, maybe they look to keep Trae Young, right? But the Hawks are looking to make some trades. Clint Capella, DeJounte Murray, these are some players that could be on the board for the Atlanta Hawks as soon as this draft, as they try to maybe forge a new path for their roster overall. But that's going to be the interesting thing, is not to see just what they do with the number 1 overall pick, but then what subsequently happens after they make the pick official and how they're going to go about changing the direction of this team with talent and things like that. So, I know there's been some talk about maybe DeJounte being the one that stays. Maybe it ends up being Trae Young. Hell, maybe they pull a Utah Jazz and end up trading both those guys and forging with their new, with their new young player, and maybe going a different route and getting more picks and getting some additional players in here as well in this draft. Or maybe they kick the can down the road and try to get multiple picks in next year's draft, which is supposed to be really deep. But outside of just the number 1 overall selection, what does this do for the future of the Atlanta Hawks roster is going to be one of the biggest questions as well. And I'd love to hear you guys sound off on that, on who do you think the Hawks are going to move? Do you think it's going to be Trae Young, which could net them a lot back? Do you think it's going to be DeJounte, which they could still get some back, and then maybe move a Clint Capella as well to kind of to bring a lot, get most on their return of investment? So let me know what you guys think is the future of the Atlanta Hawks in that sense. But otherwise, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys stay locked in with us. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number 1 spot for everything everything NBA related. I do Chicago Bulls Central too, everything NBA and basketball related. So make sure you guys stay tuned in with us as well. And I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Now that we're doing draft coverage, it'll probably be tomorrow, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.